If you're watching this video, then chances are you've got something in your life that you want to change, but you're finding it hard. Let's sort that out. Okay, so to help you out today with creating change, especially if you're finding it hard, I've got a beautiful quote from Aristotle. This for me is one that I really love to work on with clients. And so I'm going to read the quote with you and I'm going to show you how we can use that quote to really take ourselves into a place of changing habits and finding that process easier. So Aristotle says, excellence is not an act, but a habit. Now, here's the thing about beautiful quotes. We can have a tendency where we're like, oh yeah, that quote's really nice. Like, yeah, cool, woohoo, really motivating. But my work is about taking that intellectual understanding and really forming it in the brain so that it becomes the center of a really powerful new way of being. And so what we're doing is we're taking that quote and we're putting it into our minds and we're creating a whole new sense of self and a whole new way of being based on this quote, rather than just like, yeah, excellence, it's an act. Or it's not an act, it's all about habit. So we're taking it further from just like, nice quote. So how do we do that? First of all, I want to explain to you the way that the brain works and why those habit changes do feel like they're really difficult. Because sometimes, I don't know if you're anything like me, sometimes when I was trying to change my habits, before I really knew about how the brain worked, before I became a neuro-linguistic programmer, I used to just think that it was something wrong with me. Like, oh, I'm just really crap at forming new habits, or like habits are so hard to form that they're just too hard for me to form. Almost sometimes a little bit like a potluck as well. Like, sometimes you get to form a habit and, sometimes you just don't. So that for me really held me back. That's why I find knowing a lot more about the way that the brain works and how we do form habits and why we slip out of habits, I think it really helps, because then you start to see, oh, it's not just like there's something wrong with me. It's like that's how my brain is currently wired to work. And okay, I just need to make some key changes and then it's going to get easier. So let me give you some of the science behind it. I got some technology or some terminology here. So this part of the brain, the part of the brain at the front, the prefrontal cortex, here's where we make decisions. Here's where we decide on a movement to make. So I'm going to reach my arm out and I'm deciding that consciously. I'm aware that I'm making that decision. I'm going to move my arm. I'm going to pat my iPad. So this is the part of the brain where we decide on a movement to make. Okay. So this is the prefrontal cortex. Now, what happens when this part of the brain goes to sleep? Now, I don't mean when we go to sleep at night and we go to sleep and we dream and then we wake up the next morning. What happens when this part of the brain that says, I'm going to do this movement, goes to sleep during the day? Now, this happens a lot. This happens all throughout the day. So when this prefrontal cortex goes to sleep or stops being the one in the driving seat, another part of the brain takes over. So this is the basal ganglia, which is like in the middle of the brain. And in this part of the brain is all your pre-programmed movement. So all of the movement that you do where you don't have to think before you do it. So this prefrontal cortex doesn't have to be awake throughout the day, because the part of your brain in the middle that has all of these automatic movements down, things like making your cup of tea in the morning, things like driving to work, things like brushing your teeth, because you've done it so often, all of those movements are stored in a separate part of your brain and they just happen automatically. So this is the brain functioning really well. it's awake here when it needs to be. So say, for example, I'm driving along and my basal ganglia is in control. So this prefrontal cortex is asleep, but I'm driving. And so I might just be like thinking about my day, wondering about this conversation I had with a colleague at work, but my basal ganglia is driving the road. But then suddenly a deer jumps out in front of the car and I'm awake. I'm suddenly reacting in the moment. I'm no longer thinking about that conversation I had with my boss. I'm no longer thinking about my business idea and what, why it's not working out. I'm like, there's a deer. I need to put my feet on the brakes. Now, the reason I'm in this place is because the basal ganglia, it doesn't have an automatic way to respond to something that it's never had to respond to before. And so that wakes me up. And suddenly I'm in this part of the brain and I'm saying, foot on the brake, turn the wheel. Obviously those instructions are happening really quickly, but it's happening. I'm responding to the moment around me. So the reason that we find it so hard to make change is because we're up here going, I really want to write more, or I really want to eat healthier, really want to go to the gym. But then as soon as this part of the brain goes to sleep and we've got all our automatic movement, if eating healthily, writing 1,000 words a day, going to the gym 4 times a week isn't a habit that we've already been doing our whole lives, we're not going to be doing it. And so we can be awake and be like, right, I'm going to go to the gym today. But as soon as that part of the brain falls asleep, which it does throughout the day regularly, our habits take over. So what do? Here's where we come into that place of trying to make it easier. So now you've understood the science behind it, like why it's happening. It's not because you're not good enough. It's not because it's impossible to create a new habit. It's simply because you need to go into that basal ganglia and you need to put the new habit in so that when you do fall asleep during the day, that basal ganglia is like, well, she's fallen asleep, but I've got this habit of writing 1,000 words a day, so I'm going to get her to her desk and I'm going to get her to open up her laptop, and hopefully at that point she'll wake up again. So we want to make sure that we get really, really clear about what we want to start programming in. Now, here's the thing. Make it really, really easy. Because when we're putting in a new routine into our minds, we want to make sure that we put it in really nice and clean. Again, what tends to happen is we get really ambitious about a change that we want to make in our lives, i.e., some kind of changes that I might have tried to be making in my life several years ago might have been, I want to live in an entirely new area, I want to have a completely new job, I want to totally go vegan, I want to be doing yoga every day, I want to be writing 1,000 words a day, I want to be training to be a life coach. Like, how many habits? And those simply aren't the habits. Like, every single one has got about 10 new habits associated with it. And so my basal ganglia is just like, oh my God, how do you expect me to record all of these new routines? Especially because I'm doing all of these routines in fits and starts. I'm loads of self-doubt going in there too, loads of negative self-talk. And so I'm basically putting in all of these habits in a mishmash order. There's very little clarity to them. And as I'm recording these new habits, I'm also putting in a hell of a lot of doubt, a lot of stress. Imagine trying to change your life in 7 different ways, and each different way has got 10 new habits. If you're anything like me, you're going to be like seriously overwhelmed by all of that. So you bring in 1 and you start there. But it's so beautiful because when you start there, you're basically starting from a clean slate. You're like, all of the other ways I've been trying to do it, all of the other ways that I've been trying to make change in my life, I don't have to do it like that anymore. I don't have to try to transform my life in the space of a week. Imagine if you gave yourself about 30 days to develop each new habit in your life. By the end of a year, you could have 12 life-changing new habits that feel simple, that feel a lot easier than they currently feel. And imagine in a year's time how your future will look when you've got 12 habits that you're doing automatically, that you can really trust, that you feel really motivated to uphold those habits and the results of those habits in your life, for your business, for your career. are massive. So that for me is why I love going at this pace. So you want to get really clear. You've got this sense of the change that you're trying to make. Maybe it's a change with your diet. So it might be a really simple habit is to start with making sure that you absolutely hit your water intake each day. Maybe you're trying to write a novel. Maybe you've got a screenplay that you want to finish. Again, a really simple habit might be 250 words a day. So you keep it really, really small. And that way you practice the habit. Imagine it. Every time you practice that habit, your basal ganglia, the little part of your brain whose job it is to just record stuff. Aha, I see a new habit. I'm going to record this in case she wants me to do it again. So as soon as that part of your brain is recording it, you want to make sure that they record a really good version. If I'm trying to create a habit where I'm writing 250 words a day, I want the habit recorded to be me getting a glass of water, coming and sitting down, got all my material, got my pencil, and off I go and I write my 250 words. 15 minutes later, I'm done. I want that to be a 15-minute habit. I don't want to record coming and sitting down, I don't know, I need to go make a cup of tea, coming back again, staring out of the window, and then I record a 2-hour habit, but at no point in that 2 hours does any writing take place. So that's why we want to make it really, really simple so it can be clean. And so we come, we show up, we create this 5, 10, 15-minute habit and we practice it every day. Here's where we come back to Aristotle. Excellence is not an act, okay, but a habit. So that's what I mean. When we show up and I write my 250 words and it takes me 15 minutes and I habitually do that, that's excellence. All of this pressure that we put on ourselves to write 5,000 words a week or to go to the gym every day and do an hour-long workout, and we maybe do that for 1 or 2 weeks and then we fall off. Every time that happens, we think, I'm not good enough. We think, I'm not worthy to have my dreams. But excellence is not an act. It isn't enough to try to do it once and one act, and that's why you're not feeling excellent. And so you take it down to a manageable habit, and you're doing that manageable habit every day, and that's when you start to feel excellent. And that's what makes change easy. And that's why you're finding it hard. Because if you don't feel excellent when you're trying to make change, no wonder you're not creating a habit that you want to stick with. You're creating that 2-hour version of frustration, which you play out a couple of times and you're just like, I'm not enjoying this new habit. It's not getting me anywhere. So excellence is not an act, but a habit. So that really means, my friends, that no matter how small that habit is, the fact that you're doing it every day, the fact that you're maintaining that habit, you are taking yourself into a place of excellence. And that's what change looks like. And by the end of a year, you've created 12 new habits. So your excellence is like 12 levels higher than it ever has been in the past. And here's where you're stepping into a brilliant new version of yourself. And every time change gets easier. So let's start to break it down. The final thing to really remember is that when you're carrying out these small habits, you want to be really rewarding yourself. You want to be feeling like you've really achieved something. So it's great to feel like a sense of like, yay, like patting your shoulders, like, that's awesome. You did your 15 minutes of writing or you had your glasses of water, whatever that small version is. So it's really important to give yourself those rewards. Accountability really helps too. That's why I set up the community on Facebook, the Write No Matter What community. It's a powerful, committed community. We've got writers, we've got business owners, we've got creative entrepreneurs, we've got actors, we've got performers. It's a really wonderful creative community and we're doing powerful work. It's a free Facebook community and currently everyone joining, I'm sending you a free bonus video. It's a masterclass all on how to create, live and earn exactly the way you want. If you enjoyed this video, then you're going to love the masterclass. And if you're completely new on this channel and you want to make powerful change and you want to step into your creative destiny, hit subscribe, my friend, and let me guide you to your dreams. Really hope you got some value from this video. Give those habits a go. Let me know in the comments below what your simple habit is going to be. Let me know what you've been inspired to take on after watching this. And I really look forward to seeing you in the next video. Take care. Be amazing.